السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with الروض المربع, and we're still in the subject of satr al-awra as one of the conditions of the salah. I would read what we just covered last time, just the matn of the Zad al-Mustaqni', and this is already we covered it. So we just I'm going to read ومنها ستر العورة فيجب بما لا يصف بشرتها وعورة رجل وأمة وأم ولد ومعتق بعضها من السرة إلى الركبة، وكل الحرة عورة إلا وجهها، وتستحب صلاته في ثوبين، ويكفي ستر عورته في النفل ومع أحد عاتقيه في الفرض، وصلاتها في درع وخمار وملحفة، ويجزئ ستر عورتها. This is where we stopped. And then we continue inshallah, and hope everybody's with me, paying attention, because there are many different possibilities with the masail here, and many different masail together. So to make sure that we understand every word of the matn and the sharh together, inshallah. So he says here, this is now the masail that about, he says, وَمَنْ انكشف بعض عورته وفحش. أو, that means there is more than one cases here. What's the rulings to it? من انكشف بعض عورته, whoever some of his awra انكشف, get exposed. So after talking about what the awra is, the awra for men, the awra for women, and the different types of people, now we know what the awra is. So if some of the awra get exposed في الصلاة, in the salah, of course, this is what we're talking about. رجلا كان أو امرأة, man was it or woman, and now he says وفحش. وفحش, that means it becomes with fuhsh. Al-fuhsh, if you remember the word al-fahisha, al-fahisha is the explicit sins, the sins that are known to be abhorred by decent people, by people of good fitra and decency. So the word fahush is when something a person would abhor, would find it very explicit. So if the awra, if it get exposed, and wafahush, and it becomes explicit, too much of the awra. But then he says here عرفا وطال الزمن أعاد. So عرفا, that means the awra, or what exposed of the awra is like, say for example, the private part. So this is عرفا, everybody would say this is too much. This is basically what fahush here. وطال الزمن, and the time period of its being exposed is a long time. أعاد, he would then repeat the salah. So when we talk about this, one, to understand it well, inshallah, want to see also a good word of translating the word fahush. If there's a good word to translate it, is usually they would say the private part, or something obscene or indecent, right? Something that is indecent, and it's well to be known urfan. So let's see here the possibilities of things, because we have kind of more than one variable here. You have the awra, whether it's exposed with fahush, that means it's indecent, or say the private part. And this doesn't have to be the private part. It can be something also a part that is closer to the private part. So something that is fahush, or a big portion of the awra is exposed. So you have the awra is being exposed, and طال الزمن, the time period is long. So if these two things happened, then that breaks the salah has to be repeated. Okay? So two together, that the aura that get exposed is fahush. So if it's a small portion of the aura above the knees for men, for example, is exposed, that's not fahush. If it's a little bit over the knees, so that doesn't break the aura, even if the time is long. But this is with being exposed unintentional. So before I read this, so let's see the possibilities here and count them, write them down, make sure that you understand them so that we can get to understand these masail. If someone exposes any of the aura, even if it's a small portion of the aura, even if it's not fahush, even if it's not the private part or anything, just something small over the knees of a man, for example, wears a long short, but it's right above the knees, intentionally, right? That means the salah is invalid because that's intentional. Anything with exposing the aura intentional breaks the salah. Or a woman standing in the salah with her hair showing, knowing that this is aura and she prays like this, her salah is invalid. So the first thing to take care of is the intentional part. These words here of this mas'ala here is about unintentional aura being exposed. So if it's unintentional or a person doesn't know, then we get into these details. If it's we have fahush and the time is long. If both are there, that means the salah is not valid even if it's unintentional. So therefore, if let's talk about the fahush. If it's not fahush, أو لم يفحش المكشوف, as he's going to mention, that means it's part of the aura that is not fahush, is not obscene. It's a small, like say for example again above the knees or some of the hair of the woman. That means the salah is valid. If that happens unintentional, then it's valid even if the time is long. The time is long and the person is not aware of it, right? Not that he's aware and he doesn't cover it. So that means he becomes intentional. So if a woman, for example, she realized that part of her hair is showing, right, and she says okay, and she continues the salah, her salah is invalid. But if the entire salah she prayed and a small portion of her hair is showing, but she was not aware of it, right? So we say the salah is valid. She doesn't have to repeat the salah because she did not know about it, right? Why? She did not know about it, and it's a long time, but it's not fahush. It's not part of the aura that is obscene or, a private part or something like this. So this is here. So either it's fahush or not fahush. If it's fahush and a short period of time, it does not invalidate the salah. She's a woman wearing the khimar, right? And the khimar slipped away from her head. Her entire head showed, hair, neck, face, everything, right? So while the thing is falling, so that she does not go against the qibla, of course. So her head and her hair and her neck, the entire thing get exposed. But while the khimar is falling, she grabbed it and she put it back on. So here the awra is fahush. This is something that is too much, but it was for a short period of time. So it does not invalidate the salah. Salah is valid because it's a short period of time. So you have again, if it's fahush and long period of time, yes, the salah is not valid. If it's fahush and a short period of time, the salah is valid. Short period of time. What are the other possibilities? Write them all down, the different possibilities with regards to time and the awra fahushat. That means it's explicit. If it's not fahush, a small portion of the awra, right, and the time is short, it's very obvious. Then it does not invalidate the salah. If it's a small portion of the awra, not fahush, and a long period of time, it does not invalidate the salah. So I hope this is clear. And all of that if it's unintentional. So let's read then these 4 lines with what we said. وَمَنْ انْكَشَفَ بَعْضُ عَوْرَتِهِ, some of his awra get exposed, فِي الصَّلَاةِ رَجُلًا كَانَ أَوْ امْرَأَةً وَفَحُشَا, and it becomes obscene or explicit. Urfan is what's known to be that way. We don't have to say it in a very detailed, how many inches of awra exposed or whatever. No, just urfan. وطال الزمن, the second variable here is that the time is long, prolonged. أعاد, he would have to repeat the salah. وإن قصر الزمن, if the time is short, when the awrah was exposed. And with that, that means even if it's fahush, even if it's obscene or the private part get exposed or so, but قصر الزمن. أو لم يفحش, or the time was long, but it's not يفحش المكشوف. المكشوف was not يفحش, was not the private part, was not the offensive one. This is another word for it. You know, someone's part of the aura, when it's exposed, it becomes offensive. A person would be, it's different than something else. أو لم يفحش المكشوف ولو طال الزمن, even if the time is long, لم يعد, he would not then he's not to repeat the salah. إن لم يتعمده, unless he intentionally exposed the aura. So if al-amd makes all of what's mentioned before, invalidates the salah. So I hope this is clear, inshallah. And with all of these different possibilities, if you have any questions at the end, inshallah. So this is here with regards to exposing some of the awrah, with the two, again, variables here, al-fuhsh and طول الزمان. Al-fuhsh and طول الزمان. If it's the exposure, the part that is exposed has fuhsh in it, obscenity in it, offensive, the private part, things like this, and the time is long, all of that is urfan, then that invalidates the salah. Otherwise, it's not valid. It's valid, unless it's intentional. Then he says, أو صلى في ثوب محرم عليه. Now, this is another case. صلى, he prayed in thawb, in a garment that is muharram عليه, not permissible for him, haram for him. And there are different exceptions here. It's not all one rulings. So this is where he says here in the sharh, but first in the ثوب محرم عليه أو نجس أعاد, or if it's najis, then he has to repeat the salah. In the sharh he says أو صلى في ثوب محرم عليه كمخصوب كله أو بعضه. The haram is in different categories. Either it's makhsub meaning being stolen. So someone wearing a garment that is stolen, whether it's all of it or some of it, but it's covering the awrah. Some of it or all of it. The different type of haram, harir, a man wearing harir, silk, which is haram for a man to wear. Mansujin bidahab أو فضة. The garment has parts of it, or mansuj, the threads of it, some of the threads of the garment is with gold or silver. In kana rajulan, and if he's a man, of course, it's forbidden for men, so that means if it's a woman, it's okay. With the condition, another condition, wajidan ghayra, he finds other than that to wear. That is only to the harir and the mansuj bidahab. This is where the matn becomes tricky, or the sharh, if you read it on your own. So wajidan ghayrahu, if he finds something else other than the harir, the silk, or what has gold and silver in it, and if he doesn't find anything, wajidan ghayra, then it becomes not permissible for him. وصلى فيه عالما ذاكرا, and he prayed in it عالما, knowing, remembering. أعاد, he would repeat الصلاة. طيب, the مغصوب here is different. According to the madhab, the مغصوب, or the garment that has been stolen, it is not permissible to wear it, even if it's the only garment that is present. Even if a person has to pray naked without covering the awrah, yes. Why? Because the makhsub, that means that it's referring to someone else's right. So it does not permit it whatsoever, to show the importance of the rights of others. If it's stolen, if he knows that it's stolen, then it's not permissible to wear. And this also brings the subject of when something is haram. It's a major subject in the fiqh, and knowing the principles behind it makes it easy, but it's a detailed subject. The subject of that you're doing something fard and wajib, but there's haram with it. Haram action, part of the fard that you're observing, or the obligation. Does it invalidate the fard or the fard is valid, but then with the sin being involved in it. So this is when some of the things that they mentioned were they call it انفكاك المحل here. That means that the matter is attached to it or detached to it as far as the one ruling, right? So whether it's part of it or not part of it, meaning in the ruling in itself. So they say here, if it's makhsub, if it's stolen, it doesn't matter, then it's not permissible to pray. The salah has to be repeated if a person has something makhsub, stolen, and it's not permissible to start with. But that's different than the harir and the mansuj bidahab aw fidda. If the garment is silk or has some gold and silver in it, for a man, for example, it's still, if it's intentional and he has something else to wear, then it's not permissible whatsoever to pray in it, of course. But if he doesn't have anything else, so the choice either to pray naked with the aura exposed or to wear a garment of silk or a garment that has gold and silver in it. So in this case, then it's okay to wear it to cover the aura. That's more important than covering the aura because it's of a lesser situation, different than the makhsub or the thing that is stolen. Plus, for some individuals, the harir is permissible if he has itching or some skin disease, as the Prophet ﷺ permitted. So the level of severity of it is less. So this is in the case that he doesn't find anything else. So this is what is meant وحرير ومنسوج بذهب أو فضة إن كان رجلا واجدا غيره. He's a man and he's finding something else. If he doesn't find anything else, he can pray in the harir and the mansuj with ذهب أو فضة. Before we continue, just in case you heard something for someone else, this is in the madhab, right? But according to, which is the other madhab, that if a person, a man prays with a silk garment knowingly, the salah is valid, but he's committing haram. This is where again in fiqh al-jihad, this is again the issue is, are they together or detached? Two different rulings, or they are one because you're doing fard and haram with it. You see what I'm saying? But here so this is a mas'ala you can research and you see how things are. But here in the madhab, if a person is wearing a silk garment, a man, or a garment that has gold and silver, and he knows, and that's the only, and he has other choices, but he chooses to wear silk or something that has gold and silver, his salah is invalid because it's haram. Okay? But if he doesn't have anything except this, then the salah is valid and he doesn't have to repeat it. Clear? And our job now is to understand what's in the madhab. And of course, the matter here is of the evidences can support both, but it's with that condition or this foundation about the haram being involved in a matter of obligation. So I would read again and see how it's clear. أو صلى في ثوب محرم عليه كمخصوب كله أو بعضه وحرير ومنسوج بذهب أو فضة إن كان رجلا واجدا غيره وصلى فيه عالما ذاكرا أعاد. He has to repeat the salah. Now وكذا إذا صلى في مكان غصب. Now here the same ruling applies. He says إذا صلى في مكان غصب. If a person prayed in a place that is stolen, the earth, the spot that he's praying on is a stolen land, and he's praying in it. He prays in it knowingly, of course. أو صلى في ثوب نجس, or he prayed in a garment that is najis, has impurity in it. Going back again here, inshallah. وكذا إذا صلى في مكان غصب أو صلى في ثوب نجس أعاد ولو لعدم غيره. If he prays in a place that is stolen or prayed in a thawb, garment that is najis, then he has to pray the salah again. He has to repeat ولو لعدم غيره, even if he doesn't have anything else. He says لا من حبس في محل غصب. This ruling is different than if he was confined in a place that is غصب. He is imprisoned, for example, in a spot that is stolen. So this is a different ruling. أو نجس, or confined, imprisoned in a place that is najis. So that means in that case, the salah is valid. He does not have to repeat. So the first one, إذا صلى في مكان, if he choose to pray in a مكان غصب, in a place that is stolen, or he prayed in a ثوب najis, in a garment that is najis, then he has to repeat the salah. Even if he, ولو لعدم غيره, even if he doesn't find anything else. So if he doesn't find anything else, right, he has to repeat the salah. But this is another riwayah. There's another narration here. If someone has a garment that is najis, that is impure, he cannot wash it, and that's the only thing he has. And if he doesn't if he doesn't wear this najis, he's going to pray uryan or naked. What should he do? According to the madhab, he is to wear the najis garment and to make the salah and then to repeat the salah later. But there's another riwayah to Imam Ahmad that he does not repeat, because he already prayed according to whatever is feasible and present in his ability. Clear? So this is some of the details here. So if you go by this here, that means he would have to pray the salah and then to repeat the salah. But the other narration, which is what the ulama are upon, is that he would have to pray in the najis because there's nothing else for him to cover his awrah, and he doesn't have to repeat the salah. The same thing if he prayed fi makani ghasbin, and that's different than the garment that is makhsub, and he doesn't have any place else to pray. Fi makani ghasbin, he is not to pray there. He has to go somewhere else where it's not ghasb, unless he is hubis. This is, he's confined in that place. There's no other choice for him. أو najisin, or the spot or the place, like for example in a prison cell and it has najasa on the ground. That means what should be the action here? He has to pray. ويركع ويسجد إن كانت النجاسة يابسة. Now if the najasa, now we're talking about the spot. If the najasa, whether it's dry or wet. If it's dry, what is the meaning of it's being dry? That means if he touched the najasa, if he makes sujood on the najasa even, it does not get attached to his skin because it's dry. So since it does not have skin, so it's okay. يركع ويسجد إن كانت النجاسة يابسة. Najasa is there, but it does not get on his skin. If it's ratba, that means if he touched his skin or his garment or whatever on the ground, it's going to have some of this najasa, wet basically. So in this case, يومئ ويومئ برطبة غاية ما يمكنه. Al-ima is to lower oneself to the best of his ability. Whether it refers to al-ima with the head. So if he standing in a spot, a small area, and he's confined in it, he's not able to move from it, and it has wet najasa on the ground. He's standing, so there's no, he's not going to fly in the air. So he's standing. So to make ruku', yes, he's to make ruku'. Not making ima in ruku'. He's not going to just lower his head with ruku'. He has to make full ruku'. And then when it comes for the sujood, then he goes as close as he can to the position of sujood, but does not put his head on the ground because it's najis and it's rataba, it's wet. And that's غاية ما يمكنه, to the best, to the most of what he's able to do. ويجلس على قدميه, and to come down on his qadam. Don't get on his knees because his knees will be najis. So to stay on his foot. If he has a chair, then he sit on the chair. So to do the best of what he can without touching his body or his face or anything like that to the najasa. And in that case, he would just make ima, make himself forward as if he was praying on a chair or something like this. So then now you see the difference between someone is in a place that is najis versus a garment is najis. Something that the awrah is going to be uncovered versus the awrah is covered but the place is najis. As you see the different rulings here. And then he says, وَيُصَلِّ عُرْيَانًا مَعَ ثَوْبٍ مَخْصُوبٍ لَمْ يَجِدْ غَيْرَهُ. As I mentioned earlier, he mentioned here now. وَيُصَلِّ عُرْيَانًا. Then he is to pray عُرْيَانًا, without any clothes whatsoever, naked, if he has مع ثوب مخصوب. If the garment is stolen, لم يجد غيره, he did not find anything else but this. So al-makhsub, it is not permissible to pray in it. If he prays in it, he has to repeat the salah. If he doesn't have any other garment but مغصوب and he's gonna pray naked, yes, he is to pray naked, but not to pray with a ثوب مغصوب, with a stolen garment. But then وفي حرير ونحوه لعدم غيره. وفي حرير ونحوه, that means praying in a garment of harir, silk, and the like of it, as mentioned before, with gold and silver, then to pray in it. لعدم غيره, if he doesn't find anything else but the harir or the like of the harir. So this is the differences between الثوب المغصوب والحرير. If he doesn't find any other garment but this. So then satr al-awra, covering the awra, then is more important than wearing the silk. But with the maghsub is more important to avoid that even if he's naked. He says ولا يصح نفل آبق. And of course in this case, as he's not going to repeat with the harir and so. If he prays with the harir, he is not to repeat the salah because he doesn't have any other garment. ولا يصح نفل آبق. Al-Abiq is the renegade slave, ran away from his owner. The nafl salah is not valid. Why this is mentioned here? Because the Abiq, he does not own his time. The slave, he does not own his time. So he stole the time from his owner, basically. So his nafl is not valid because that's not his time. Only the fard is valid. Hopefully it's clear. Then he says, وَمَنْ وَجَدَ كِفَايَةَ عَوْرَتِهِ سَتَرَهَا. Now going to the stage where he has some of the garment that can cover some of the awra, but not all of it. So what's the priority here? What part of the body to cover? Because it's not going to cover everything. So he says here, مَنْ وَجَدَ كِفَايَةَ عَوْرَتِهِ سَتَرَهَا. Whoever find what's sufficient to cover his awra, then he has to cover it. وُجُوبًا, an obligation, of course. وَتَرَكَ غَيْرَهَا. And he would leave other than the awra. So he has a piece of garment, either to cover the awra or to cover his, shoulder, for example. Even, then to cover the awra, of course. Not to cover the shoulder and to expose the awra. لأن سترها واجب, because covering the awra is wajib, obligatory. في غير الصلاة ففيها أولى. In other than the salah, so that means in the salah is even أولى, is more of a priority here. وإلا, if he doesn't find وإلا يجد ما يسترها كلها بل بعضها, he finds only some of the awra he can cover, not all of it. فليستر الفرجين. Then first and the most important thing to cover is al-farjain, which is the private parts, the front and the back. لأنهما أفحش, because they are أفحش from the rest. And we talked about the word fuhsh. It's offensive, it's obscene, right? So and أفحش more than the rest of the awra. It's more of fuhsh than the rest of the awra. فإن لم يكفيهما. So now he's going to start with, covering the private part. And then if he has more, then he covers more. But if the piece of garment is not even sufficient for the private parts, فإن لم يكفيهما وكفى أحدهما, only one, whether it's the front or the back, فالدبر أولى. The back is more of a priority. So to cover the back first, أولى. Why? لأنه ينفرج في الركوع والسجود, because in the ruku' and the sujud, the matter becomes worse. Basically, ينفرج, that means it opens up. That's what's literally the means of ينفرج. So it's different in ruku' and sujud, in which the front in the ruku' and the sujud is more covering, but the back uncovers more in the ruku' and the sujud. إلا إذا كفت منكبه وعجزه فقط فيسترهما ويصلي جالسا. Unless the garment is sufficient, كفت, only for his shoulder. وعجزه, العجز is the waist. فقط, only this. And it's not sufficient to cover the private part even. So in that case, فيسترهما ويصلي جالسا. In that case, he would cover then his shoulder and his waist, and to pray sitting. So if he prays sitting, the front and the back is not going to be exposed, and he covers himself from the top to the, as if the entire body is covered in this case. So it's all about فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, fear Allah to the best of your ability. He says وَيَلْزَمُ الْعُرْيَانَ تَحْصِيلُ السُّتْرَةِ بِثَمَنِ أو أجرة مثلها أو زائد يسيرة يلزم. It's an obligatory thing upon العريان, upon the naked one that doesn't have any garment. تحصيل السترة, he has to try to find something to cover his عورة. تحصيل السترة. السترة here is not the sutra in the salah that you pray to. It's the sutra here is the garment that covers his عورة. بثمن, with the price. أو أجرة مثلها, or to rent the like of it. أو زائد يسيرا, or even if it's a little bit extra, it's okay. Why they mention this? Say, for example, someone is being, he doesn't have something to cover his awrah. And someone uses his situation and saying, this garment is worth 10, but he uses his circumstances and he says, I'm going to sell it to you for 1,000. Then he doesn't have to purchase it with 1,000, saying, well, that's what can I do except this to make my salah valid? No, the deen is, the matter is at ease in this case. So that's why بثمن أو أجرة مثلها. If it's the garment is worth 10, he give him for 10, 15, it's okay. Then it becomes mandatory upon him to purchase it if he have the means to cover his awrah. ويلزم. Then وإن أعير سترة لزمه قبولها. If he's been given from as a إعارة. الإعارة is to borrow something and you return it again. It's different than al-qard, or to take a loan, right? And this something will be discussed in the mu'amalat, inshallah ta'ala, in the transactions. Al-i'ara, that you borrowed something and you will return it, like you make i'ara for a book. You go to the library, you're not taking the book as a loan. When you take it as a qard, that means you take the value of it. But al-i'ara with regards to that item specifically. So you have to return the specific item. So the same thing, if someone, a sutra, a piece of garment that would cover his awrah to make the salah, and someone gave him a piece of garment as an i'ara. He lent him, he borrowed it, and then to return it back. Does he have to accept it because that's the only way for his awrah to be covered? Or he would say, no, this is kind of a favor. I don't like to take favors from people. So this is the issue here. وَإِنْ أُعِيرَ سُتْرَةً لَزِمَهُ قَبُولًا. It says here that he has to accept it. If he's given as a sutra, as a garment to cover his awrah for the salah. Why? لأنه قادر على ستر عورته بما لا ضرر فيه. Now because he's able to cover his awrah in something that has no harm to it. There's no harm in this. It's a matter easy, and he would return it back. And that's why it's إعارة. بخلاف الهبة. بخلاف الهبة. If it's a hiba, الهبة is a gift. If someone give him as a gift, then he doesn't have to accept it because of the circumstances. It might have been that the hiba is that it's going to be a favor, or it's kind of a humiliating. Or the person giving the hiba, he doesn't really want it to give it as a gift, but he feels bad, so he kind of embarrassed of being in that situation. Otherwise, he's not willing to give this as a gift. So you don't make it difficult for that person. You don't have to accept it. بخلاف الهبة للمنة, because of the minna, because of the favor, or someone remind him of his favors or so. And the honor and the dignity of the believer is something that is to be observed. ولا يلزمها استعارتها. It is not mandatory upon him to go out and borrow a garment. لا يلزمه. If that's why وإن أعير, in the passive tense, someone comes and gives it to him to borrow, then he has to take it. But for him to go out and ask people, no, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to do so. Then he would pray with the rulings that are mentioned before, and what was also going to be mentioned about how salatul ari. There's rulings here. How to make the salah if a person does not have clothes to wear. This is now the next part here. It's going to mention that, inshallah. So maybe we'll stop here, inshallah. ويصلي العاري. We'll do that, inshallah, next time. And you see that how these rulings also teaches kind of manners, and how to accept versus not to accept, and that the person should not always act based on what people say. There's something beyond that, and sometimes people don't get this quite clear. You see something Say, for example, a brother has a nice hat, or he's sitting with a sister sitting with the sisters, and she has a nice purse, for example, right? And you say, "Oh, your purse is so nice." So she feels embarrassed, as if you're asking for it. So she would say, "Oh, you can have it," right? If she says to you, "You can have it," she said you can have it, right? She said it. But is it permissible for you to say, "Okay, sure, thank you very much," and you take it? And you would say, "Oh, she said that. If she didn't want to give it to me, she should have not said it," right? No, it's not permissible for you to take it because she said it because she was embarrassed or she was shy, or there's a possibility in that. You should not accept it, right? And she should not say that. But what if she says it? You are not just to take it, right? Because of these types of things that are mentioned here. So that's why there's even ahkam rulings that applies as a result of that. So, and the person should give the ease for the people to for those who are shy or being generous or things of that nature. طيب, we'll stop here inshallah. Um, we'll see inshallah what the attendance code here. But I can see very well that الضبط الصحيح من باب الاستنجاء قول المصنف نعل أو نعل، وفي الثاني يشير الشارح إلى أنه مجرور بحذف مضاف، لكن هل يجوز مثل ذلك في اللغة أو نؤول الجر إلى أنه تابع لمسجد؟ والله if you can copy and paste المتن and the شرح, as if that's referring to the when they put الشرح المزجي, الشرح when it's part of the متن, as the case of الروض here, as we said before, that's different than if the متن is separated. So the matn, if it's you're memorizing the matn only of Zad al-Mustaqni', sometimes the dabt or the vowels is different because it's not mudaf to something else. It's not made mudaf to something else, versus that it's, and we just passed something like that here also, maybe in the matn here that we saw. Are men clothes that may have some silk threads weaved into it haram? This part of the question, if it's more than four fingers, then it's yes haram. If it's something insignificant, it's not haram. If it's a very small portion, like say for example the brand name of the clothing, for example, it's threaded with silk. It's insignificant part of the garment, then it's okay. But if it's part of the garment, like more than four fingers of space, then it's not permissible. Also, gold looking thread embroidery, not real gold, on men's clothes, is this allowed? If it's not real gold, it's okay. It has to be real gold for it to be haram. No. Allah. If it's the person can pray naked rather than wearing stolen clothes, does that tell us that generally the salah is valid without a shart? Okay, that the salah is valid without a shart if the person has no ability to fulfill the shart. No, this is not, no, it's you cannot say that generally that the salah is valid without a shart if the person has no ability to fulfill the shart. Yes, it depends, but because al-ghasb here is not a rule, because the ghasb has to do with haqq al-ghayr, with the rights of others. So if someone is not able to make wudu, which is a shart in the salah, then he has to pray without the shart. If a person is not able to cover his awrah, and that's a shart, then he has to pray without the awrah being covered. But since it's haqqul ghayr, since this is the right of others, al-asl fi haqqil ghayr is-shuh, is that we don't become at ease with the rights of others. If it's the rights of Allah between the abd and his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, the matter is easier in that regard. Not that it's easier to break the laws of Allah, but because of the not to allow people to steal from others. Allah Alam. If one finds out his clothing is najis after completing his salah, does he have to repeat the salah? The answer is no. This is all of what you mentioned, these cases. If a person knows that, If he intentionally doing it, of course, that's not permissible. If it's unintentional or not knowing, and the salah is finished, then the salah is valid. The salah is valid now and does not have to be repeated. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he was during the salah, he took his slippers off, his shoes off, and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they did the same thing because they saw the Prophet ﷺ doing that during the salah. So after the salah, they asked him, or he told them, ﷺ, why did you take your shoes off? They told him, we saw you, so we did the same as you did. صلوا كما رأيتوني أصلي. Pray as you see me praying. So he said, Jibreel alayhi salam came to me in the salah and he told me that it has najis in it. And the Prophet ﷺ did not repeat the salah from the beginning. So that's an evidence that part of the salah he prayed with najasa on. So that it does not invalidate the salah. How about men's coat is made from inside from silk? Yes, this is for the most part, it's going to be a big portion of it. So that means it's not permissible. If it's the inside is covered with silk, like the entire inside like this, then it's invalid. It's not permissible for a man to wear it now. طيب بارك الله فيكم. Inshallah, we'll stop here. And we continue inshallah ta'ala next time. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.